Welcome back to the Authentic on Air with Bruce Alexander. Today's show is brought to you by my new digital course, 9 Ways for the ADHD Dad to Radically Improve Communication. Do you ever struggle to communicate with your spouse or your family in a way that feels meaningful? Have you found yourself consistently taken advantage of at work and in your personal life because no one seems to care how it affects you? If that sounds familiar, then you have a communication problem. ADHD or not, dad or not, if you are not able to identify, define, and communicate what is important to you with authority and intention, you will continue to struggle. I know that from experience. If you can't communicate what matters to you, it is almost impossible to do anything that matters. The 9 Steps for the ADHD Dad to Radically Improve Communication is a self-paced digital course that will guide you to reclaiming the power of your voice to speak the life you deserve into existence. It's available at www.authenticidentitymanagementcom/9steps-special offer. For a limited time, not only can you get this course at a special limited time price that you need to see to believe, but I am also throwing in some really valuable bonus materials completely free of charge. Again, for a limited time, not only will you get the course at a special low price, but you will get all the following completely free. Access to the ADHD Dad's private community where I post live content daily, the impactful audio lesson, The 10 Hacks for the ADHD Dad to Thrive in the Workplace, access to the Passion, Purpose, and Self-Acceptance video collection featuring Jim Rohn, Jordan Peterson, and Garrett J. White, a digital download of the powerful Unmasking ADHD Blueprint, and for the cost of shipping and handling only, an exclusive ADHD Dad t-shirt so you can represent your allegiance to that ADHD Dad life. That is all available at www.authenticidentitymanagementcom/9steps-special offer. Again, that is www.authenticidentitymanagementcom/9steps-special offer. You can also just click the link in the show notes. And now back to the regularly scheduled episode. Hello and welcome back to Authentic on Air with Bruce Alexander. I'm your host, Bruce Alexander. Today is pretty special because I've got somebody else on with me who is all about that authentic life. Braeden Westfall is on today's episode. I'm genuinely excited to get into our conversation because I feel like we've got a lot in common and there's going to be some really cool things to talk about. He's the owner of the Authentic Vibes Only clothing brand and creator and host of the podcast of the same name. More about him after today's reflection. It's interesting to me how easy it can be to miss a huge part of the big picture when you're too close to see all that the big picture entails. Writing for 26 episodes in just a little over 2 months has been fun, but challenging. I've been happy to rise to it. However, I realized half in a dream that I have not challenged the audience to reflect on the mission that is important enough for me that I have made it my life's work. How are you making the world a safer place to show up authentically? Braeden is a GM at a restaurant during the day, and his bio triggered the memory of my restaurant life and how heavily that position had affected my perception of myself. Being a server is not inherently a dignified position. The culture created and embraced by the leadership is everything. I was great at serving. I know because you are graded in cash. I was made a trainer at all 3 of the restaurants I worked at and a manager at the last. I'm a natural leader. I'm proud of all that, but that's not the point. The point is by objective measures, I was the ideal person to succeed inside the restaurant world. Unfortunately, though, I encountered a lot of subjective management. To talk about the last restaurant specifically, I had 2 general managers. The first, Kenneth, a tough but fair manager who presented clear expectations of excellence in customer service, food quality, and presentation, cleanliness, and teamwork. If you met those clearly defined objectives, you got more hours, better sections, opportunities to move up. The second was Davina. Whatever her philosophy was, is still a secret to me. I think it had something to do with being likable to her. Under Kenneth, I was worked about to death, but I was paid well for it. He saw my versatility as an asset, promoted me to trainer, and allowed me to learn every position in the restaurant, and eventually promoted me to hourly part-time manager, and started grooming me to be a full-time manager, until he had to make a personal change for his family and had to leave. I totally respect that. Under Davina, my manager hours were cut way back. My responsibilities as a manager changed. I was taken off the floor early every shift to do inventory and our paperwork. I didn't realize it at the time, but that probably wasn't very good because I'm ADHD, so I probably wasn't very fast at that. It was boring. I slowly felt myself transitioning from a dependable problem solver to a problem for her to solve. Accountability time. Under all the management, I was often late and made stupid, boneheaded mistakes. The difference was Kenneth was mostly an authentic leader. He cared about why I made the mistakes more than he cared about making sure that everyone was punished all the time. I knew when I messed up, and I cared because the clearly defined expectations gave me an opportunity to learn how I can operate best as myself in the situation. Just took time. However, under Davina, I never understood what I was doing wrong, why I was no longer allowed to cross train, or why my schedule was being changed, or why I was passed up multiple times for the position that was next in the career step for me or anybody else who'd been in my position. As a leader in any career field, it is your job to cultivate the culture that exists within your organization intentionally. I encourage you to support an authentic culture that takes pride in leveraging individual strengths for team success and providing time and resources to turn weakness into strength. Champion a clearly defined and intentional culture that can be referenced by everyone for consistent expectation. Sound off in the episode 26 reflection post at Authentic Identity Management on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, or LinkedIn, and tell me how you are making the world safer to show up authentically. If you are stuck in your company's culture or your company's culture is stuck, I can help. My Authentic Leadership course can be taught through one-on-one coaching or delivered as a workshop to help you implement a heart-led leadership culture that will produce results while creating an environment for everyone to thrive. Type thrive in the comments, and I will reach out to you to set up a free 30-minute consultation to see how I can help you live and work more authentically. If you love the space we are creating or want to help advance my mission of making the world a safer place for authenticity, here are a few ways you can support the show. Leave a review and tell me what you think is great, needs work, or would like to see more of in the show. Follow the show on your favorite podcast platform or all the platforms you use, and use that share function. Send an episode of this show to someone you care about or post it on your social media feeds and in your stories. Those are all free ways to promote the authentic mission. If you aren't comfortable being a spokesperson for authenticity, you can be a financial backer of the Authentic Mission by going to Patreon and searching Authentic on Air with Bruce Alexander and signing up for membership. I am dedicated to the work of this mission long term, but I would love your help in more quickly making the world a safer place to show up as yourself. In a getting to know you post in my podcast community group, I saw Braeden Westfall post about his Authentic Vibes Only podcast and identified him as someone who just might be about that authentic life. I've listened to a couple of his episodes of his podcast and love what he's trying to build there. I don't have a lot of time for other podcasts because I'm trying to build something here, but I have heard enough of his to believe his heart is in the right place. And in place of my one listen per episode, I offer him my platform today to authentically tell his story, engage with my audience, and hopefully create some new listeners that way. I've spent a lot of my time in a state of uncertainty. I grew up feeling through my early years in my parents' divorce, then intermittently, I'm going to start that part over. I have spent a lot of my time in a state of uncertainty. I grew up feeling poor through my early years and my parents' divorce, then intermittently rich when my dad would bestow material things and cash upon me while fighting with my mom over child support. So when I started to have anything of my own, I was afraid to share it. I didn't know when it would come again. Through intentional work and processing, I don't play the zero-sum game anymore. I want people to come on my show and make an audience for their show by sharing themselves vulnerably and genuinely. The mission to make the world a safer place to show up as yourself says nowhere that I am the sole gatekeeper of authenticity. As a matter of fact, I want as many people on this mission as possible, and I will help them however I can to serve that mission along the way. Be you for you. In his spare time, Braeden is trying to create a life he does not want to escape from, and along the way help others evolve and view the world from a different perspective. He is doing this specifically through his clothing brand and same-name podcast, Authentic Vibes Only. I respect this man's hustle, but I'm really looking forward to digging into the story of the man behind the brand. So live from Illinois, is that correct?
Yeah.
Is Braeden Westfall. Welcome, Braeden.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, Bruce. I'm excited to get on. Like I said, I've never been on anyone else's podcast yet. I've always been the host. So I'm excited to be in the other seat and be the one that's like answering the questions rather than always have to come up with questions to be answered.
Yeah, and I'm excited to give you the opportunity for sure. Like I said, I really do like what you're doing over there. And I forgot to ask you, how old are you?
I'm 25.
Man, so you're pretty young to be a GM. First off, how did you end up in the restaurant industry?
Uh, it's actually my parents' restaurant, and they're just kind of getting older. So I started there when I was literally like 10, like started helping out.
Yeah,
And I just grew into like I stayed there. When I was at college, I would work during football, like I played college football, so like I couldn't come home and work all the time. I went to college about an hour and a half away from my hometown. So like when it was off season of football, I'd still come home and work when I was in college. But then when I came back home, because COVID and stuff, we switched. I transferred schools, but then we got like online. So then I was working a lot more there, and then I just ended up being GM. They're taking more time off, trying to take back. So then I picked it up. Um, but then I like when I finished school and stuff, I had my own dreams and mission. So I am the GM there, but I'm still trying to make enough time for myself right now and build on that.
yeah, man. So can you, before we get too deep into your story, can you tell the audience who you are in your own words, how you spend the majority of your time, and why you think I invited you on the show today?
Who I am in my own words. I'm Braeden Westfall. I'm myself to the fullest. I think that I'm never like I'm just always me. Like I was listening to the thing you said, and I listened to a video earlier. Like uh, they're saying like, are you authentically you like all the time, or are you someone different in each space you go into? And or are you like a different person in every like spot you're at, like your job, or like a different group of friends on Friday night at the bar, or whatever? And I would say that I just really am always my authentic self, and I love that. And that's what we're on here preaching. So what? And then what else? Let's see. What do I spend most of my time doing? So I work nine to five, technically not 9 to 5. I work 10 to 8. So I work 4 10s a week. I was doing two like fives, and then so I was working 5 days. I was doing 2 5s, and then the rest were 10s. Now I switched down to 4 10s, so I have 3 days off. I usually have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday off. And that free time, I'm just working on the brand, making clips for the podcast, editing the podcast, working on designs for new clothing coming out, talking to manufacturers for the clothing, stuff like that. And then why do I think you invited me on the show? I think, like you said, we're preaching a very similar message and the same message and being your authentic self, but in a very different way. So I think I'm on here because I'll bring a different perspective into what maybe being authentic is, or just a different vision of what it is.
So, branching off of that, can you tell me how you define authenticity?
Just being your genuine self, being you for you is what it is to me. You're just always gonna show up as your true self, and be genuine and vulnerable no matter what state you're in that day. You could be upset. It's okay, you're going to be upset that day, but it also doesn't mean like projecting your feelings, but it's like allowing people to know like I'm me today. I'm having a tough day, and if I'm not acting as normal as I am. This is the way I'm acting today because that's how I feel. So, however you're feeling for the day, and whatever you like in life, and not letting social stigmas be put on you and telling you what you can and can't like, and really getting it based on like I feel like it gets into a lot like some guys can't like this because they're a guy, or girls can't like this because they're a girl, and stuff like that. Passing those social stigmas, and like what space you're in, like being a guy and being in fashion a lot, that there's a stigma there. So like passing all those stigmas that society places on us, and just showing up as yourself, and no matter what, just liking what you like and doing what you do because that's who you are. That's what you like to do.
I feel that. I like that. So, how would people who know you and know of you describe you both correctly and incorrectly?
Correctly, I would say the people that are closest to me, because I do show up as my I like this question because I know I show up as my authentic self, but I do think that to some people that's taken the wrong way, and I can get into why I believe that. Um, but correctly, I would say people would describe me, like my closest family and friends, as passionate, caring, hardworking, genuine, and like also like just myself, like goofy weirdo, like I'm different than everyone else, but like in a good way. A lot, I get that a lot. It's
Right.
like you're different, but in a good way. And I think it's because like, yeah, I'm just showing up as myself, and people aren't always used to that. um Incorrectly, I would say I would get like I have a big ego or arrogant and stuff like that, and that I I've broken this down on my own show. Um it's because like I used to, be an athlete. I would say I had a big ego, and now being myself, I'm just so confident in who I am and what I do that like still people can take that as the wrong way and having like a big ego or arrogance. So I just say like kind of maybe just for that, I feel like I get a lot of times like people think I'm like kind of some a-hole or something, like
Yeah.
mean and stuff, like the way I look and just the way I post, like I'm arrogant, but then like they meet me in person or whatever, and then it's like completely opposite.
Do you let those perceptions affect the way you think about yourself at all?
I really used to. Um I did a lot. I would say the journey that I've been on has made me, like I said, but comfortable in myself and stuff. But yeah, it used to really weigh a factor on me, like in all aspects, like sports and then being a GM in a restaurant. Because like you said, being a server and stuff, you just get projected to that you're lesser and stuff like this, and it's not like that. Like I know how hard I work there and why I deserve like my pay and stuff like that, and everything. So I would say in then sports too, like I knew how hard I worked, but I would still let those projections get on me and stuff. But throughout the last 3 years of where I started, it's played a way less of a factor. I'm not gonna say that sometimes it still doesn't. I get times where I'm still not believing in myself, but it comes and goes. I get through it, and then I really just evaluate like that stuff doesn't mean anything, and then I get back on it.
I absolutely agree, and I think that that's some place where there's often a misconception about what authenticity is like being okay all the time. Like that's not authentic. Like nobody's okay all the time. Like sometimes you do have doubts about yourself, and the authentic thing to do is to say like I'm doubting myself. I don't want to doubt myself. How do I get over this?
Yep.
And letting people who care about you be able to support you whenever you need support. And, that's another big thing is like people want to keep all their pain to themselves. And sometimes it's so much easier just to tell a friend like I'm dealing with this thing, and just getting it off your chest and sharing the burden is enough to make it something that's like easily conquerable.
I agree. Yeah, it's just like I said, just showing up as who you truly are that day. It's
Yep.
gonna change very, like it really will change day to day. Some days you're feeling great, some days you're not feeling so great. But like I like that you said, allowing people to know that like I'm sorry, but like this is how I'm feeling today, and then you don't even have to
I'm
apologize
not sorry.
because
Yeah,
that's how
don't be
you
sorry.
feel. Yeah, that's how you feel. Like just be like, this
Yeah.
is what's going on today, and that's where I'm at, and we're gonna work through it, and thanks for listening. Or thanks for being there
So
for
you
me.
said so you said 3 years ago. What happened 3 years ago?
3 years ago, where my like story started, 2020. It would have been like 2019, the second half of 2019, and then 2020 is like where I really started myself. But end of 2019, um, I was at my first college, and Knox College in Galesburg. That's where I played football. And I was a 3-year starting running back coming in as a freshman. Like crazy, crazy stuff. I was in a relationship from high school, and she followed me down there and went to the junior college there, so we were still together in college. But it was just a very horrible relationship, trauma filled, just so much bad stuff going on. And on my 21st birthday of 2019, I broke up with her for the final time. And then at the same time of that football season, I was benched, and they like like week, it was like week 5. um I've actually never talked about this. It was like week 5, and it's my junior season, and we're literally like already through warm-ups, and there's like 10 minutes left in before the game starts, and my coach comes out to me and says they're starting another running back, and I'm like, um why? Is there a reason? I don't know why. I don't know what's going on. They said, "Oh, we just want to change stuff up because we weren't very good that season. We were having a tough year after having a really good season the last year." And I'm like, "All right." I was very upset with it. I still played a lot that game, but I was just upset. So then I've just finished out the year, and I was the starter every other game, I think, except one, because I got hurt at the end of the year, so I missed the last game. But they just benched me that game, and then like he was playing a lot more, and I took it the wrong way. I never really had this conversation with the coaches because I don't think they were as open to it. I had like conversations about it, but I talked to him at the end of the season and I said, like, I don't like how you guys did that to me. I've been a 3-year starter, and I think that was kind of disrespectful to do this 10 minutes before the game. I said we could have started at practice the beginning of this week and you could have told me I wasn't starting and it would have been a different story. But I think I deserve and I earned like the respect of you guys to have handled that a little bit better. Um, and my head coach, I for whatever reason was treating me very poorly that season and just like degrading me before like every game. It didn't even start just that season. It started the season my sophomore year, and then my junior year it started getting really bad. Just telling me he doesn't want me on his team, and I'm like a piece of crap, but and like cussing at me and stuff and stuff like that. And I never understood why. So then I was like having that talk with my offensive coach, who was the one that benched me the game, and he's like, "Yeah, I apologize. We definitely didn't handle that right." And I was like, "And I don't know why I'm benched. I've been in extra meetings with you all season asking what I can do better, what I'm doing wrong, this and that. And you're telling me in every meeting I'm doing nothing wrong. So why was I benched?" And he's like, "I'm just doing what the head coach tells me to do. I don't have a reason for you." So then at the end of 2019, that football season went on. That was the end of the season meeting I had. I dumped my girlfriend on my 21st birthday. I came back home for spring break and then I went back to school. I participated in spring ball and everything and had a good spring for football. And then I came home in May and I just decided last minute I wasn't going back and I quit the football team. Um, I just was so, I thought after spring ball and having some conversations I could go back, but then I just couldn't get over it. That was probably a lot to do with my ego, like I said, but also I think it had to do with the fact that there's a lot of conversations that still didn't happen between me and the coaches that should have happened and they didn't. And then I didn't hear from them all off season, and every other off season they were coming to visit me. They were texting me like a couple times a month, just checking in. They didn't text me all off season. I didn't hear a word from a single coach, nothing. So when there's a week to camp, I finally heard from my head coach. He said, "So what's going on?" I said, and I was like, "No, I'm not coming back." And then so I quit football. I moved home. I was getting like a deep depression, and like before I dumped my girlfriend that season, or like right when I did, like that whole like February to May, I was driving to this park called Lake Story. It has a lake, and I'll just sit there and with my lights off in my car and just contemplate why I was living. Like I didn't want to be alive anymore. I never got to a point where I was gonna like kill myself, but I just always contemplated why I was still alive because it just was not, I didn't enjoy life and stuff. So then I came home and finally was a little bit healing from the relationship and still very mad about the football situation because of like how I was, who I was as a person, where I was mentally, and I was a very good football player, so it's just upsetting the way it had to end. And I also am upset with myself the way I handled it and left like that. I think that could have went a little bit better, even though like I'm saying, um, what happened with me and the coaches and the head coach and really just treat me like crap. And everything else, like the way it got handled, but I think I could have handled it better. So I was upset with myself. So then I just hit this spot where I was like reevaluating where I wanted to be and like who I was and I was always defined as an athlete my whole life. So I was having like an identity crisis once I quit football, and once I wasn't in a relationship, I was no longer the boyfriend and I was no longer the athlete. So it's like, well, who am I? All I've known my whole life is to be an athlete, and that's all people really cared for me for, is because I was producing for them or helping their team win games, and that's all that mattered is when I performed, and if I didn't perform, I didn't matter. So I went through an identity crisis and started picking up healthier habits. I gained a lot of weight in that time too. I gained about 60 pounds. I got really, really heavy. I was about 245. I'd never been over 220 in my life. And at that football season, I was actually started at like 190. And then I got up to like 245. And then I just got back into it. I transferred schools and I felt like I had a fresh start. We started in person. I was transferred to a school about 45 minutes from home, so I was commuting. I was living at home. I was just commuting there. I felt like I had a fresh start. Got to meet new people, and then I was still doing art and design. So then I felt like I kind of started to identify as that as well. But then, like I picked up these, like I said, started picking up these healthier habits and really digging deeper into myself on like who am I, what do I stand for, what do I like to do, and what I like to do I can't define myself as, because that doesn't show like who I am personally, like who I am as a person, like how hard I work, and I'm loving and genuine and caring. That doesn't, I don't show those sides to people, how genuine and loving I am. And so I would dig deep in, and I wanted to start letting that stuff out and show people how much I cared. So started the new school, and I got back in the gym and lost the 60 pounds. I got down to like 185. I was in the like just incredible shape. Um, I gave up, like I had a whole year from 2021 to 2022. No, I think it's actually winter of 2020 is when I started. So it would have been 2020 to 2021. I stopped masturbation. I went celibate. I stopped eating junk food. I went to the gym 5 days a week, and I made sure I had at least 20 to 30 minutes of meditation a day. And then I was reading books. So I was doing all these things for healthier habits. I didn't drink alcohol for a whole year. Um, so yeah, I started
And you started all that at the
all at the
same
same
time?
time. I did all that for a whole
Wow.
straight year. And probably never been a harder year in my life, but also probably never been a better year in my life. So that also showed me again, by doing that stuff, showed me like who I was as a person, and how hard and how dedicated I can be, and that I can be disciplined in a lot of areas when I need to be in life. So that helped too. But then that sprung a thought. I had a friend from my first college ask me. He said he was on the football team too, but he transferred schools before I did, and I hadn't heard from him since he left. It'd been over a year, and he just messaged me out of the blue and was like, "Yo, you should start a podcast." And I'm like, never once in my life thought about that. Never once thought of it, never came to mind, and never thought it'd be something I'd do. He's like, yeah, I know how to like set it up and stuff like that, and you can just host it and have it. And I was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. If I said I'm down, but you're gonna be on it then. Like, I'm not gonna just like kick you out. Um, but I was like, I'm not in like the right like time frame right now. I was like, you're gonna have to wait till I get done to school. So then that was like winter 2022, or winter of 2021, I think. So then I went a year and a half, or a year before I started the brand. And that year I was finishing school. I graduated in that summer or spring, whatever, May of 2021. And I got back a hold of him, and I was, excuse me, ready to start. And I said, I've had a lot of time to think about this now, pal. And I don't want to start just like a podcast. I want to just start a brand in general. And it didn't even had to do with the clothing and the podcast, but more of the fact of I want to start something that has a platform that I can show people it's okay to be yourself. So then I don't know why it stuck, but in those few months, I just like the authentic vibes only just like came to my head, and I started hashtagging on all the posts I made, even though brand wasn't started yet. And then I was like, yeah, I wanted to be all called authentic vibes only. And then I said, like, I wanted to be more than just a podcast. I want to be like a full brand, a platform. And I really into fashion. I want to sell clothes and have a way to have people express themselves through clothing as well, because I've always been into like sneakers and stuff. And he agreed. He liked the thought of it, and then we started it. And then the slogan came out, "Be you for you," to tag along. And then me and him had a falling out, not really a falling out, but it was unfortunate because he was a huge help, and like you said, like I am very busy and it is really hard to do this stuff because I have a 4 shifts a week. I'm working 10 to 8, you know. After that, I don't want to do anything, to be honest, but most days you still have to. Otherwise, I can't bring my own brand forward. But that's why I took another day off, because I think 3 days a week that I have focused towards that is a lot of time that can really help me pick up the slack on days if I really not feeling it. I have enough work done. But he really did help me a lot. And then it got to the point where I felt like he wasn't pulling weight as much as he should have been, and we had this discussion. And I think he was at the same point as me. Is like he was doing so much at the time. Um, I told him I needed to wait because just being in school and working on a couple days a week, I was just too busy. But then, like when we started, he was in grad school. Um, he's in grad school and had 3 other jobs and did the brand on top of it. So he was just way
Whoa.
too busy. So like I wasn't upset with him. I just was like, man, I'm just like doing way more than you, and I need you to do more. And if you can't, then like I think we should go separate ways. So we had a buyout, and now it's just me. Um, and I'll always be grateful for him.
How much was the buyout?
The
Like I've never had to deal with that, so
So the
that's
buyout, we have an agreement. Technically, I still haven't paid him. Unfortunately, we don't speak as much, and that's not why I haven't paid him. But we've had conversations about it, and he's not like pressing. We just kind of have like a contract in place. We were just started, and we'd only done I think 2 clothing drops, and we were still in like a profit, like a loss. So I just had to
mm,
pay him back what he put into the brand, which was I think we had both at that point had only put in $2,000, so I owe him $2,000. And there's a
yeah.
contract in
I
place
mean,
that says um, like once where I'm at a point where I can pay him back and am not in a loss anymore, then I will pay him back. That's the problem with this. It's like I'm at a loss, but I'm not at a loss. Like I've invested more than I've made back because the podcast doesn't make me any money yet, besides like the sponsors that have paid given me some money for stuff. But like when I don't sell clothing, I'm just sitting on clothing. So it's like I'm putting a lot of money in to get a big bulk order. If I don't sell enough, I'm technically in a loss. So we've had definitely
yeah.
a couple two we have had 2 discussions, and he's just like, yeah, man, I'm he's like, realistically, I'm not even worried about the money. And I said, look, man, even if you're not and you don't want it back, I'm still at some point, whenever that is, I believe in myself and I still believe the brand's going to blow up. I said, you're going to be the first person I take care of because even though we're not together anymore, like you like really tremendously helped me out. And without you, I wouldn't have had this at all. I would have, it never would have amounted. So
Yeah. It's good that you are able to go your separate ways and still be able to appreciate each other, especially like whenever it comes to friends of business. It doesn't happen a whole
no, it's
lot.
hard. It is hard. It actually sucks because like we definitely have no like ill will, but it sucks because we are not as close as we were. Because when we were in the business, we weren't that close. Like I said, when we played college football together, we'd go out maybe to dinner. He'd join us with a group of us that on the team. We'd go out like once a week, as a group, and he would join. But like we didn't hang out a ton in college, and then we didn't talk, like I said, that for that whole year after he left until he reached out. And then once we started the brand, we were like on FaceTime every day. So he became like one of my closest friends. And then since we've been in buyout, we've probably only had maybe 4 or 5 conversations. And every time we say like we need to hop on calls and stuff, and we like plan a call, and then somehow it just falls through. Like he's either busy and something like came up with his job because he works. I don't know. It's kind of the hours he works are a little weird. Like he's like not ever really off what he does with his job. So sometimes he has to take like client calls at times he wasn't supposed to and stuff. But then if he's not busy, then probably something comes up with me. So we haven't been able to hop back on a call, but it sucks we're not as close as we were because he was definitely ended up being like a really close friend.
So I want to fast forward a little
For sure.
bit. So we kind of talked about how you I mean, I guess it's fast forwarding, but it's also not because you've been at your family restaurant for like your entire adult
Yeah.
life. So, and your teenage years. So, um, I guess I'll just say let's just switch gears and kind of going back to what I was talking about in the intro. Like, what responsibility to maintaining that authentic space do you take responsibility for as a GM?
As a GM, um, oh man, this is something I don't know if my dad will watch, but I'll talk about it. I can't not talk about this. We have a lot of conversations. I think I keep him more um of a like at points it gets hard because it's your business and stuff, but like it's like he gets to points where he's like goes into like this dictator. Like he's like, well, they're my freaking employees, so if they're my employees, they're gonna work what I put them on to work, even if like someone requests it off. And I was like, you can't do that, dude. Like like you're not gonna keep. I said we already struggle to keep workers, and you're like a really good boss, and you're really good to these people. But you acting like that, if someone actually heard you say that, they're probably gonna quit. Like, and also you just can't do that. You can't. It doesn't matter if they're your employees, man. If they have to have something off, they need it off. So having like conversations with him and making him be on like a more humanitarian level, maybe I don't know the word for it, but just like a more even keel guy, keeping him on a on a on a more level of being like himself, because he doesn't really show that side. Like he says that, but that's, I don't know, that's like an upset version of him, and like trying to let him actually show himself to, I try my best to have him show himself to the employees, because like I'm the one that takes care of them, and they never get to handle him and stuff. Like they work with them, but he doesn't like actually act how he is, he has to keep that boss facade, and like, nah, dude, like just be yourself. um but also
Yeah.
like,
Do you think it's like money that the like scarcity that kind of drives him to act outside of himself?
yeah, definitely.
He's
I
afraid that there's not going to be enough, hours, employees, enough, enough money to pay people if they're having to, pay one extra person insurance or like
Yeah,
or
I think it
whatever.
definitely has to do a lot with stress, and that like he always talks now, like he says stuff like, if he got paid enough, he would just manage a place. He wouldn't even care if it's like some big place, because he kind of misses just being able to just come in and bartend and stuff. And I had a conversation with someone yesterday about, on my podcast, about this. Like once it becomes like an income thing, and this is like what you do for a living, it gets more serious. So it gets hard to you know it gets hard to kind of stay yourself and be who you are throughout it all, because it is serious. Like you may go homeless, or you may be broke, like, so it's like a lot of stress and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely blame that. um but also like keeping the workforce like that, like same thing, just being myself and trying to, I'm like I am a little weirdo, like a dork. Like I like to just like be goofy. So like just bringing the energy at work and stuff, keeping people, if they come in, they're upset, doing my best to ask everyone, are you all right, and then if they say, whatever, they'll tell me if they're not, or just check in on people, and then like keep energy up, make sure people are at least, even though it's work, we still have fun and enjoy being there and enjoy our time together, even though it gets real stressful and busy at times. And then same thing with customers, just kind of, I'm like a real, I'm like you, I like to ask questions, I'm like a healer. So like I'll sit there and let you vent to me, and then I'll do my best to give you the perspective I think will help you in being myself and just telling you how I feel, like um doing that to help customers, and even just speaking my mind to them, and just staying true to me. That's just what I got to do there. I used to get a lot of, I think that was one thing at the time, a lot of stuff that was making me very mad and driving me was like these customers were coming in, and it was making me very upset, because there a lot of them were regulars and telling me like, you can't do this and you'll never be this and you're just gonna all you're ever gonna do is work here. You're never gonna leave this place. Like this is yours. I was like, doesn't it's not mine. It's not mine. My name's not on it. This isn't what I want to do. Will I at some point maybe take it over? Yeah, but if my dad wants to keep it until he's dead because it's his only source of income, like I'm not gonna work here my whole life. I will own it and like I will do what he's trying to do, own it and not work there and just hire employees, do the business and stuff like that, but I will not stay and work here my whole life. And I was getting told all the time by all these people that that's all I'll amount to, and what I should just stay here and it's mine. It doesn't matter. I'll never leave Rock Falls, and I'm still in Rock Falls, but like yeah, I just got tired of being put on standards like that and their societal things like that. Because like in high school, I always got made fun of like the opposite, dude. Like people would always say that to me, and then people like kids would be like, "Oh, you got life so easy, and you got job handed to you, and you're rich, and this and that." And we were definitely poor as hell then. Like we were poor, dude. Like my parents are coming home. My dad would come home when I was in middle school until like my freshman year of high school, like fifth to fifth grade to like freshman year of high school, and tell me that the restaurant was going to close down because you didn't have the money. And at that time was like everyone's telling
Mm,
me how rich and easy I have life, and I'm like, dude, you really don't understand what's going on in my life right now. Like, just shut up, please. Like, stop. Like,
yeah.
um, and then they're just like, oh, well, you're always gonna have a job. Like, like they make fun of me for that now. Like, same thing. Like, you're just gonna work at J Dubs the rest of your life. And then now I got those kids that are adults coming in and telling me when I tell them I'm gonna leave and like this isn't what I want to do, and I have the brand and they know I have the brand and like that's what I want to do full time. And now they're like, because they're adults and they understand how hard life is, then they're going through it. They're like, why would you not just stay? You make so much money here. You make really good money. Now I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
you used to make fun of me for this stuff and bully the crap out of me. And now because you know how hard life is, now it's opposite. Now, oh, you make way more money than me. You should just stay. Like you're dumb for not staying and stuff like this. I was like, it doesn't even make sense, man.
Yeah. So whenever you deal with people who are talking like that, um, does it? Do you feel like that drives you to want to get out more than you might actually want to? Like if all of that noise was absent and it was just you and your dad working at the restaurant, do you think you would have had more of a desire to take that over and like have it be your own thing?
Um, no, because I've told him this and I dislike saying this. But like I say I hate it, but I feel like I hate it. Like I don't know if I hate it, but like I'm just Uh, it really has nothing to do with like my employees or my dad or my mom or the customers at this point, because like because I've became who I am, like it's gotten like way better. Like the customers don't really like they don't be saying stuff like that. And our regulars, they don't say stuff. They
Yeah.
understand, they know because I let them know like that's not who I am, and I'm gonna do this. I'm working towards this, and I tell them like you can think what you want, that's okay, but I'm gonna keep doing me, and we're gonna do what I can over here because I don't want to be here. And if you think I'm gonna stay here, then that's your thoughts. I can't change your thoughts. I'm gonna keep doing what I got to do. Um, so
So you really just don't like being a
yeah,
restaurant manager.
I'm just over it. Like I just don't. Yeah, I just don't enjoy it. If I could kind of like manage and not. If I could like be manager and just be like floor, like kind of just check on tables and just overwatch, I wouldn't mind it as much, but it's the fact that like when they get smoked or it's getting decently busy, like they always have to have me. They can't handle it without me. Like if the kitchen gets busy, they need me. Like they're instantly calling me back in or calling me. They have to have me. And I'm just kind of tired of doing that labor and not seeing. I'm not saying I don't make crazy money. He pays me definitely enough for what I'm doing, but like having to do that for someone else is just not the lifestyle I like living. Like I having to put in that much work for someone else to not have like a full like every profit be in my account and then I figure out where all that money goes after like bills and all that. I don't enjoy that. So like having I think too like watching my dad build a own business like really made me want to build something from the bottom.
Mm. And I think it's having been in the restaurant industry for a lot of my early career, I I definitely know how exhausting just really any position in a restaurant is, and how easily it could just sap your will to want to do anything in the restaurant industry because it's exhausting and it's hard to dream when you're working in a
It is.
restaurant.
I don't know why. It just is. Yeah, I just yeah. I mean, like I don't even think like I hate it. I feel like if I went to like, because I said like if I move somewhere else, like my goal is to have enough saved that when I move, at least for the full first year, I can focus fully on my brand and try to really expand it. And then if I have to pick up another job after a year, then I would go back to bartending or something. I think I would enjoy it in a new town and area too, but I am just kind of exhausted. Like I think having that year off, I might actually even miss it because like I'm just like
Mm,
exhausted of doing it and kind of I think it also seeing the same people every day every week it does make me I think it's more of a like it does make me feel stuck and stuff, you know. But I'm just kind of exhausted
mhm.
of being in the same environment for 15 years is I think really plays a factor into it too because like I really love my crew right now. For the last year and a half I probably had never had a better crew of workers, like for real. So like you know, it has nothing to do with that. It's just like like you said, it just gets exhausting, and me doing it for so long, it's like, man, I'm just ready for something else. You know, like I need to get out of the restaurant industry for a while, but I also don't see myself working any other 9 to 5. So, and that's not why I started the brand. In like I said initially, it's just like this the way I think that Jordan helped me, but then like seeing myself the journey I went through and watching my dad build his company, like, and then I could see like, and this is like what I've always felt was right was helping other people was my goal, and then the brand ended up being how that's how I'm living that dream out.
Yeah. So how would oh gosh, what was I going to ask? What would need to happen with the authentic vibes only for it to be able to sustain you and you to be able to leave your family restaurant and do your own thing?
Um, let's see. I think it really comes down to me. I mean, I'm not making the sales that are sustainable yet. I mean, I make pretty my first couple drops I was making really good sales. But I messed up on those first couple drops and I think it made me lose people for that reason cuz I was printing my own shirts the first couple drops, like hand printing the ink and everything. Um but I was kind of doing it like a cheat way because there's this system called emulsion, and that's how you're supposed to do the screens. And I wasn't using emulsion because it's a way heftier process. So I was using the same screen printing like a normal screen that you would use. That was normal, but I was printing the logo because that's how you get the logos on the screen, and then they stay forever. Um, I was
Mhm.
and then there's like no errors. I was printing the logo out of the Cricut and taping it onto the screen. So then like every 10 shirts, I'd have to do it again. I'd have to tape another logo on because it was just coming off, and then like it was bleeding through on a lot of logos and messing the logos up. And then when I was doing the heating process, for whatever reason, I like researched this stuff, and I knew people that did it this way, and it was working. And I like even had a whole call with someone who taught me how to do it that way because that's how he's doing it, and he had no issues. For whatever reason, I was just making mistakes, and those drops went very well, but those shirts didn't sustain. Like the logos, like after like 3 dries, like the logos are coming off and stuff already. So I stopped printing
Mm,
myself, and now I'm at a point where like the quality in what I'm doing, my goal was always to be like a higher end fashion and be like a Zara, not too high end where it's on not affordable, but a higher end nice quality and still be not affordable to, I guess I would say like middle income, like anywhere. Like I don't want to be putting shirts up for like more than like $200, and even at that, like I feel like that's a lot. Like I want shirts to be like anywhere from, yeah, I
that's a
want
lot.
shirt. See, that's like real high end stuff. Like their low end products are probably like $200. See, I don't want that. I want like my most expensive product ever to be like maybe like $150. And that'll still be like top quality. But now that I am hitting that point where everything that's coming out is actually pretty dang amazing. Like, and the quality on these is literally unreal, and I'm having no issues. I'm not getting the customers as many sales. And I think that's because people were buying from me at first and trying to trust me, and now they feel that they can't trust me because I was making mistakes at the beginning. But to so I think also, like, me not having as much time, that's where I said I blame me for those mistakes, and then I blame myself for not putting enough time in, because I like you said with the restaurant, that I fully believe this, so I don't like try to beat myself up, but like I do get exhausted, and there's always these things when you research like sustainability and like not pushing too hard, and like not hitting burnout. Like you really do need like a day of the week where you just recover, like whatever that is, reading and going for walks, whatever it is. And I think you should do that stuff every day, but there should be a day where there's no like any stress or tension put on you. You should just be relaxing and taking a break. Um, I get exhausted, so I do that, and then like weekends, I like to go out with my friends or see friends, do whatever. And there's times that when I do that stuff, I'm like I could be working instead. So giving myself more time, and if I could drop realistically like once every month, I think that it would be sustainable enough for me to be able to move out of here. And just being more smarter with my money that doesn't come from this. So like just
Yeah.
being smarter with the money that comes from JWs in my 9 to 5, where I allocate those funds, and besides bills, saving more or whatever the case may be, just being smarter with my budget with that money, I think.
So can I ask you, like, so you had the drops that went well, like they were successful as far as it goes, purchasing wise, but the quality was
Yeah.
not what you wanted. Have you reached out and like done anything for those clients to
See, a
try to
lot
get
of them
them back?
have been like people I know, and yeah, I do reach out and like I, offer a deal or whatever, and I apologize. I own up to making those mistakes, and I apologize to them, and I try to, but they tell me they'll buy again, and they just don't. So there's nothing else I can do. Like if these people will support again, I can promise them that it's going to be way better than it was before. Um, and I still appreciate you supporting and give me a chance the first time. So if they don't again, I understand. But like if I can make up for it, like I'll make up for it.
So I watched recently this show called How to Sell Drugs Online Fast, and this thing that happened is kind of similar to your situation. Is that they like scaled super fast and they didn't really know about the product that they were selling. So they put it out and it sold a whole bunch, went crazy, but then got a lot of bad complaints. Like this is a crap product, I'll never buy it from them again. And what they did was they researched, found out how to get better product, and they just pushed out new product to everybody who bought from them to show them that the product was better. Like I'm wondering if you had like a drop that didn't go so well and you're just sitting on 500 shirts, would that be something that you would ever consider? Just send them out to people who bought from you before, who you hadn't seen since
No,
the first
I
drop?
think that's really smart. Actually, I like that. There's actually shirts that in the middle of this that I was initially going to drop, and the quality on them is really good. They're like a really good shirt. They turned out great, and I just decided not to drop. So I was sitting on like 100 shirts. I don't ever buy more than like 100 because I don't even sell that. Depending on how many items I have in the drop, I usually only make about 100 sales right now, so I can't be buying 500 at a time. But um I was
Right.
sitting on about I think 50 to 75 shirts of this one shirt, and those shirts I never dropped, and I just give them out. I want people to know. I
Yeah.
want people to know, and I give them out to friends and like people that have bought before and supported, and I do give them out because I want people to know, and this is honestly also cool. Like all my stuff's exclusive. It's never gonna come back, but you really got something exclusive. You got like because it's not going to drop to the public, and also like so
Right.
there's that side of it. It's really exclusive, and I want you to see like I've made strides, and like this stuff is the products are good now, they're sustainable. So
Yeah, and authenticity and coaching and in business is kind of my whole thing. So I would just encourage you to like say I'm sorry. Like, I was new, I didn't know, just put in a little letter to everyone and say like I was brand new, like I was excited. I thought I was doing everything right and I wasn't. But here, like I'm doing everything right. This is for you. Check this out. Try this on. wash it 10 times and come back and see this is what we're doing now.
I like that. I'm writing that down too because I want to. I've thought about it a lot, like issuing a public apology too. And I think that yeah, after you speaking on it again, it's definitely resurfacing now. It's just like so, I put notes in my phone for things like these, and then I get busy and I don't look back to them for a while. So now that you're putting this out, it resurfaced, and
Yeah.
and now honestly, I could do it whenever this week because I got the next couple days off.
Yeah, and whether you make a public apology is totally up to you, but I think that it's, really those clients that you had who bought because other people
Yeah,
don't know. They didn't buy your product. So, I mean, I don't think you owe them apology, but you know, you've been committed to excellence ever since. So, you
yeah, just
know,
adding in like a
it,
little note if I give out shirts to people that have already bought for free and stuff. Yeah, like a personal note
yeah.
apologizing.
I hope that's something that ends up working out for
Thanks,
you
man.
because I think it will.
I like that
I
idea
think
too.
it's that that's just, to me that's people think about authenticity, but they kind of forget about it sometimes whenever it comes to business dealings. And not everybody's forgotten about it. It's kind of become more and more common to see companies really focusing on like building relationships through being more honest about what they do. And those are the people I want to like. That's who I want to do business with. That's and a lot of people want to do business with. It's not that everybody is looking for somebody to be telling the exact story they want to hear, but whenever they find a story that sounds authentic, that feels genuine, and the product is lined up with what you want, why would you not go with that product versus the one who feels like it's trying to sell you some sort of
Nah,
false narrative?
that's like the biggest goal with this too is like I want the brand to just be so personable. I want you to know exactly what's
Yeah.
going on with me and with every step and what I'm doing with the product and what I've worked on to make the product better. I want to show you everything I can. I yeah.
What I liked was the other day you I don't remember if it was like a donut
Yeah.
shop or a coffee shop posted using your using your tagline, and so you just ran them over a bunch of shirts, and I thought that was the coolest thing. It was like it was just that reciprocal nature of you know I'm putting something good out in the world, you're putting something good out in the world. I'm gonna recognize you, and then you recognize them for recognizing
Yeah,
you. I
that
thought that was
was
great.
the hardest part about that, man, is like the reason I didn't take a video of them like me giving it to them, like actually handing it to the people and stuff. Like that feels very unauthentic of me that I have to post that. I don't like that. But the fact of the
Yeah,
matter is, unfortunately, and this is the worst part, I do my very best to be as authentic as I can in the aspects of the business. And the hardest part is like sometimes you have to do that because like the name of the business is to grow on social media. Sometimes you have to post stuff like that. But I really the real me would have not posted that. Like me personally, I didn't even want to show like that I did that. If they posted and said I brought that for them,
yeah.
good, but I realistically did not even want to put out that I was taking these people like clothes from my brand. I could have cared less. I don't need the recognition or the validation. It's just, I thought people would like it too, but it's also like I really don't care to post this. And that's the hardest part about the brand. There's a lot of things that come up and it's like I really could care less about posting this. But also then I think about it as a businessman, it's like I know that this video could easily blow. Unfortunately, that's selfish, but it's hard. That's one I fight because I really, that the like me really that's not me. Like I don't feed off the validation or need that for helping people out because I just help people out of the kindness of my heart. Like I thought it was so amazing.
So what I think is that you made the right determination there by not like actually videoing the moment where you gave like that would have I feel like made that transaction feel forced, but you honestly seemed excited about what you
Oh
were
yeah.
going to go do. Why would you not want to share your excitement with the people who
Yeah.
follow your brand? Like, dude, I'm about to go do this thing because I'm excited that they're talking about my thing. That's exciting. Like genuinely that's exciting. So I'm going to like take them some t-shirts, not because I'm this great person taking t-shirts, but I'm excited about what they're doing and I want to reward that. That to me, that's what
Yeah,
I
I
got out
think
of it.
that's the line I was trying to get. Like I said, I was trying not to record it because it would have felt like I was doing it for the reach. So by me just recording myself and saying, "Yeah, I'm happy about this. This is cool as hell and I want to do this. I'm just going to take these guys shirts and it's a surprise." That was like my first reaction is I'm excited for this, like you said, and then yeah, it was like when I got there I was like I'm not even picking up my phone. I'm giving this to them and saying thank you for putting my message out there. I really appreciate that. Here's how I'm showing my thanks. And then you know, they sent me the pictures of them wearing it and stuff like that, and I just used those instead of a video. But yeah, even at that, I really just didn't
Yeah.
want to. I really could have cared less to post it at all. Like they could have posted whatever, and I could have got recognition, and people probably would have been. If I wouldn't have posted, that probably have been people like, "Why didn't you post about this?" But really, like, I just don't. You know, like I do that stuff just for real, just out of the generosity of who I am.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I've talked about this on the show a few times before. There's a You have to meet who you genuinely are with where you want to be. And like if you want to be a successful business person, that means that sometimes you're going to have to do things that are not
Yeah.
completely who you are. Like I don't think you should sacrifice yourself to achieve those goals, but sometimes you might have to step into discomfort, like talking about yourself. Like one of the biggest things I've read whenever I've like talked about marketing and public relations is that you have to toot your own horn. Like you have to talk about what you're good at, you have to talk about what you're doing right, because
Yeah, and you
nobody
just
else is
gotta
going to do
network
it
that
for
way,
you
you know? You
until
just
you're
meet
so
random people.
exactly, until you're so big that nobody like, then it doesn't matter what anybody else says, then everybody will start
Mhm.
to talk about how great you are. But until that point, you have to be the one who's
Yeah.
starting that. And that's hard. It's like, it can't come off as, inauthentic, but if you're genuinely doing something you care about and that you're proud of, then talking about it shouldn't feel
That's
false.
a hard thing that comes like you're saying because like I said, you said earlier, you asked me how would people describe me incorrectly. And I think that like when I talk about like myself in the brand, because the brand really started because I knew myself and then like that built into a brand, you know, like finding myself. And I'm not saying like I say all the time, I don't have it all figured out. The logo represents
Mhm.
the ancient spiral, which is the meaning the never ending journey. The spiral is the never ending journey. So I turned it into my own spiral, and that's the never ending journey of being your authentic self. It never ends. Um, but people describe me incorrectly because like I said, they'll say like I'm arrogant or have a big ego because like when I'm excited about something coming off of my brain, you know, I'm gonna talk about like I talk about it to people like in public spaces and stuff, you know, but like I'm proud of that and that I'm super excited to just say it. But like some people unfortunately will react the wrong way to that. And oh, I also said this now it's a good time to get into this. I said earlier I have a reason on I think why people do that. I think people react that way, you know, it's just like the same thing with like jealousy, envy, hatred, and just like negativity, stuff like that. People react that way because unfortunately they're a little upset that they can't be themselves or they haven't found themselves yet. So they don't understand that feeling of what you're feeling being yourself. They don't understand that because they're not there or to that point of life.
Yeah.
So then they react negatively instead of in like like a grateful way or a positive way because they don't understand the way you're feeling because of the way they're feeling.
I definitely agree with that. It has People's opinions about you have so much more to do with them than
1,000%.
they do with you. And, like I've really gotten into, refining this idea that people's ideas are like, or people's opinions are like clothes. Like, if you give me a shirt, like if I don't like it at all, then I'm not even going to put it on. But if you give me a shirt and I'm like, this feels all right, let me try it on, and it doesn't fit, then I'm going to take it off. If it fits well, then I'm going to wear it. If it's too tight, but I feel like I can work towards fitting this, I'm not going to change myself to fit this. But if I can evolve, if I can, let this experience shape me to where this fits well, then that would be really exciting. So then I'll keep that one for a little later. Instead of thinking like, if you think this about me, then my feelings are hurt. Like, no, I'm not gonna let
Yeah.
my feelings get hurt anymore. I'm gonna let that be an experience that shapes me either one way or another. It makes me stronger in how I believe about myself, or you said something that had merit, and I'm gonna try it on and say, okay, you know what, you're right. I do want to let this experience shape me to
Yeah.
be X, Y,
I
or Z.
like the way you put that. That was see, I'm always on here. I'm not even the host this time, but every time I'm on with a guest, man, it's just always y'all have some like amazing like metaphors and analogies, stuff like that. I love that.
I think the really great thing about having this, having a platform, my platform, your platform, is just getting to connect with people and talk past like that initial cosmetic stuff to really get into deep conversations and really engage with others and like hear ideas and exchange, thoughts and theories and whatever. And just like, I don't know, to me, like I'm getting stronger in everything I believe every time I have another
Ah,
conversation because somebody says something that either affirms it or they might say something that makes me doubt that we're on the same page at all, but that's okay. Like if we're not on the same page, it still gives me something, they say iron sharpens iron. Like it makes me have something to like sharpen my blade against. And so we have that conversation because it's all in respect and love. And we just have these conversations. And I'm like, okay, like I don't necessarily agree with that exactly, but I see what's good in that and what's useful to me. So I'm going to take that out of there and I'm going to see how that applies to my philosophy and how I can, keep growing and keep
definitely.
evolving myself.
I've said that on every episode I think I've had. Is just like uh, I'm on here in I don't know, like I've never met these people. Same with you, like in person. Like we've had very minimal conversation. Some of these people I've had a little bit more conversation with, obviously, but really know a lot of them I don't very much know. And I think the fact what makes it cool is I'm not just like you said, toot my own horn, but I get on the brand and I'm gonna be myself and I'm gonna be genuine and I'll be vulnerable because that's who I am as a person. So the fact that I can do that on there, I think makes people feel very comfortable being on the show. And that like you said allows them to be genuine and vulnerable as well, and allows them to be their authentic selves on the show, even if they are a little bit different on their own platform. They get to show like their full on self. And I think a lot of the people I have on are pretty authentic anyways. Like they don't need me to show them that either. But the fact of the matter is, like, we get on the show and it is very authentic and genuine, and it's easy to do that with people that are the same way or at least trying to be their most authentic and genuine selves. And same way when I get people on, like I do this for the other people that listen and watch, but realistically every time I'm on an episode, it helps me more than people know because I learn so much from my own episodes. It's actually incredible. I'll go silent sometimes. And I apologize because like one of my guests just said to me, I had to really think about and contemplate because feel like it relates to me and like where I'm at in life at the time or what I'm doing with my brand. So I really love this because it not only do I feel like I can help others selfishly, it helps me. So it's just amazing how that works. It's kind of more of like not even selfishly. It's just more of like a full circle thing. Like I'm helping others, and by helping others, I'm helping myself.
I absolutely agree, 1000%. And I don't know who does a podcast and is not growing every time they do an episode, but if that's the case, then they probably
Yeah,
wouldn't be very fun to listen to. Like, I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm sure that somebody does it and they talk about like research data or something, and there's it's totally boring. But for me, like every time I'm on here, I learn something either about myself or about somebody else
yeah,
that helps me grow somehow,
same.
and I absolutely love it.
Go ahead.
So
I was just gonna
go
say
ahead,
I
go
like
ahead, go ahead.
listening to one of my podcasts from last year, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, and then I had listened to one from this season, and then listened to one from my first season. I was like, it's actually really crazy how much like this has grown, even though like uh sometimes it feels like it doesn't because like the numbers aren't always there, but then I always tell myself like with or without the numbers you're going to do this because it's really thoroughly what you enjoy and you love. um but it's just
Yeah.
crazy to me, like I was watching and I was like this podcast is actually really grown in the last year, and at times I tell myself it doesn't seem like it is making any growth. And that's just uh straight based off looking at numbers, like if I don't gain a lot of numbers from the last season, which I actually have in the but still it seems like you want that sometimes you're still you're too focused on the gratitude of, because we live in the right now with everything. We can get everything at the second we want it, basically, with phones and social media and fast food or whatever the case may be. You got to think about the delayed gratification more often than not.
And with the numbers, like I try to keep it. Like my wife would disagree with this because she thinks I'm always talking about numbers, but like I try to keep a balance between like analyzing what I'm seeing and being beholden to those numbers. I want to know the numbers. I want to make sure that I'm doing things that are creating positive impact in the growth of my show. But whenever I start to get focused on like how those numbers make me feel, it means it's time to probably step away a little bit. Like if I have an episode that I thought was really going to crush, and then I'm like, man, nobody's watching this, and I try to think of what I haven't done that I've done for other episodes, that's perfectly fine. That's strategy. But whenever I start to like say like, man, maybe this episode wasn't good. Like that's not like I don't think that is good. I think every episode I've done is great. Some have just hit much better than others, and that's I mean it's just
I like
that's the
that
way it
too.
is sometimes. Like podcasting is weird.
It is. It
Podcasting
is.
is really weird.
You don't really know. I feel like you just don't know what to expect. It could be
How many episodes have you done?
25 and then 7, 32.
32. So you're this is my 26th episode. So
About at the same
you're
spot. You know.
you know
So we're about at the same spot. I
what's
haven't
that?
done.
But you've been doing it for a year, like almost a year. I just like I'm a person. Once I take to something, I go. So this episode won't air until I think the end of November, like because I've this will be the 26th episode I've recorded
That's
since
crazy.
the end of July. Like so, this has just been yeah, it's been a pretty crazy schedule, but like I really love doing it. And then we're gonna move, and I know that I've got to have like I want to keep a steady, constant flow of content. Like I want to keep being able to release it once every week. I want to, no matter what happens, I want to have that going. So it was like, while I'm here and I have the support and I've got, lots of people who want to interview because I have a pretty good network. I should do as many as I can. And then I really took that seriously, and
I was
I
trying,
got
man.
them
That's
in.
how I was when I first started too, because I love it. I would record a podcast every week. I would record multiple. Just finding the time for me. I just got so much. Like I said, I got burnout. I was doing too much. Not with this really, just everything else. That last year I was having a lot of problems with panic attacks and stuff, so I had to tone it down. So I started this season, and my goal was to drop every week too. And then like I just was noticing like when I was dropping every other week, basically like how the numbers were playing out. When I drop every other week, it plays better statistically for me. I get more content pushed out, stuff like that. So every other week has worked out really nice for me. But I still do want to at some point be able to do one a week.
Yeah. Um, so you said anxiety. Like I was gonna go somewhere totally different with this, but like, how long have you been
My whole
experiencing
life,
anxiety?
I got a fish. So I've always had depression and anxiety. I got diagnosed with depression like years ago. But then I finally got actually diagnosed with anxiety last year, and I already knew I had it, especially like talking to the doctors and figuring it out. Like I've had it for years. Um, the thing is like finding myself and everything uh has really pushed that away. I've been way less depressed. Obviously, I haven't even been depressed. I get upset at times, but I haven't had depression like that since like when I first started this stuff, like probably 2020. Um, but
Yeah.
anxiety that doesn't ever really go away for me, but it definitely gets better and disappears when I'm focusing on the right things and doing the things I know I need to do. So like when I was um last year when I was struggling a lot and I was having panic attacks, that never happened in my life before. I was having just horrible panic attacks. When that stuff started happening, I was having burnout. That's when I realized I needed another realignment because I was getting away from who I was. Even though I was burnt out and doing too much, I was doing too much, but I was also getting away from who I was. And when Yeah,
You're doing
and
too
when I
much of
do
the wrong
that,
things.
um, the year that I quit drinking and went celibate, all that stuff, like, I'm be honest with you, I don't think I had a lick of anxiety the whole year. Like, for real. That might have been like, I was, like, in my head still, but, like, it didn't feel like normal anxiety. Like, it didn't feel like a bad. Um, because a lot of time they just say anyways,
Yeah.
like, anxiety is just a stuck energy that needs to get out, good or bad. So, um, I think, yeah, the year that I was doing that, like, I was in my head, but, like, I wasn't anxious about it. It's more like a lot of times they too do say too, like, with certain stuff, like, anxiety is just like, it's more, it's excitement. And I think
They're definitely very, very closely
same
uh,
feeling.
tied to each other. But there's all different kinds of anxiety. Like, I suffered from generalized anxiety very much up until like a couple, really a year and a half ago or so. But whenever I started to come into alignment with, like you said, doing the right things for myself instead of like trying to put all these, like, pretty much wear other people's expectations all the time, is whenever I stopped experiencing so much of that anxiety was really just me putting on other people's,
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
opinions of myself. And once I stopped wearing those all the time, it felt so much better. I was gonna ask you, whenever I was like at my most false, I guess. I mean, I didn't realize it at the time because like I'd gotten really good at lying to myself. Like I had no idea like how many like falsities I was really keeping up all the time. And whenever that like all kind of came to a head and I started behaving in a way that didn't align and I got called out on it, I had to dig deep and figure out what was going on. And I realized that there was so much stuff that I kind of hidden from myself. Like, did you ever have a
Yeah.
realization like that?
So that, like I said, when I was in that relationship, and then football, all that stuff was ending, and then I came home. Um, and even the years, like that whole 7 years I was in that relationship, I was just a completely different person. Entailed in the relationship, and they understood more. Like, now I understand the way you were acting, like, and I'm not saying like it was right. I was like, that's what I said to him. I said, I'm not gonna justify me being that way because of what was going on in my life. That doesn't, you guys weren't treating me badly, that doesn't mean I should treat you badly, but I should have been more open on the days I was having bad days with you. And now I can be open with you now that the relationship's over. You guys can understand, and I'm gonna break down like what was going on and then why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and so I was able to do that. And then I also realized, like, I like before that happened, I did like contemplate, like, man, I really was just like a real piece of crap. Like, I was not a good person. I was not good to my friends. I was not good to my family. I treated my mom and I treated my mom very poorly, and I feel very, very, I still feel very distraught from that. So I've tried to make up for it as best I can. Um, yeah, I'm getting emotional about this because I feel bad. I still feel very bad about how I treated the people in my life that were like only doing the best they could even when they were struggling, you know what I mean? Cuz like my parents, my mom and stuff, they've always struggled with stuff. So like she's having bad days and I start treating her like crap too, like that makes it even worse. So I still don't think I'll ever be over that as much as I try to make up for it. I feel really bad for that stuff. But that was the realization, is like I really just came to realize how bad I was treating people that meant a lot to me in my life. And then is like, dude, like I know this isn't me, because like every time I treat them bad, and even in life, like there'd be obviously times I treat them good, but I've always been just very generous and caring and loving. Like I always had that in me, even when in those times, like when I was being a pretty crappy person, like I felt horrible inside doing it. But like there'd just be like times where I was like, I just always do just like, like random acts of kindness, like I take care of the people that mean a lot to me. And I've always like get that warm feeling inside. So like I would still always did that then, not as much, but I just treated everyone like crap. So I knew like what inside of me, how I really felt, and then I just started being more that person.
What were you telling yourself while you were being crappy to these people to
I
excuse that
just like
behavior?
I didn't really tell myself anything. It was just more along the like I feel like crap, so I'm gonna act out. Um, It didn't have any, like I just had thought it had no consequence in life. I just like, oh, if I feel like crap, who cares how
Mm,
anybody, I never like took into a fact like how anybody else could feel or react. It is just always about me. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like you should take care of
mhm,
yourself, but like when you're feeling negatively, you shouldn't get stuck into like I'm the only person that matters. Because just because you feel negatively, that doesn't mean that you
right.
should be treating other people negatively.
Yeah, I completely agree. So when you came back and you told your friends, you kind of, you know, informed them of what was going on, do you feel like that was your, as an adult, that was your first moment of like true authenticity?
Um, oh man, this has been such a long journey. I'm trying to really think of like where like I really feel like it hit me and started. Yeah, I would say like that happened because I had a realization. So like that probably was like my most No, I don't think because I in high school I had moments where I definitely felt like oh yeah, yeah, you said
That's not an
adult.
adult. Like
Um
you weren't an adult yet.
I think in college too like when I what age did you say an adult? 18 or older?
18 or older, yeah.
I would say even in moments I had moments in college and I was like, this is me, But it never fully came about to like I still just kept those masks on, Like but like there was points where I was having like conversations or doing things and I'm like, this is the real me. And it really sucks that people don't get to see this. Um
So whenever I say like a moment of complete authenticity, like you can be in that cycle where you're behaving unlike yourself. You're lashing out, you're hiding stuff, you're lying,
right.
and still have moments where you act as yourself. But there's still all that other stuff that is affecting everybody else around you, and it's also affecting you because you're keeping secrets, you're hiding your real feelings, and like you said, your friends are like, why is he acting like this all the time? So they had this barrier to anything that you did that was actually yourself, because they were still like, but he just yesterday he was yelling at us and it didn't make any sense, so everything's out of alignment with how you act. So for me, whenever I say that moment of true authenticity, it's whenever I'm both acting like myself and everything's on the table. Like, I had to dig some skeletons out of my closet and like have a conversation with my wife, and it was ugly. Like, and it hurt her feelings, and I was so scared and vulnerable that she was going to leave me. But it felt good at the same time because for the first time, I felt like everything was out. There was no
I
hiding
would
anymore.
have I would say I had moments like that in my relationship, but then like yeah, I think when I came home it really hit the most. Yeah, like you're saying, like the having those conversations with like my family and friends and stuff uh kind of sealed the deal. That's when it was like it's out the bag now, like this is who I really am. And I'm not going back. Like I'm always
So, and that's what I was going to ask next is getting that out. It helps you transition into just
oh,
immediately starting
1,000%.
to live your
I
life more
think
authentically.
because even when I had those conversations in my relationship, like you said, they were still like I never fully was that person still, like my true self. I would fall back into someone I wasn't. But then like I hit the journey and I'd have conversations and then yeah, I just was in my room and thinking a lot and evaluating and like yeah, I'm not going back. Like this is who I am, and I'm gonna like continue to show that. I'm a very caring, loving, and genuine person, like, and I have a lot of feelings, and I show those feelings a lot. And I'm gonna be open about it when I am having good or bad feelings or whatever this is. I'm gonna let people know, and I'm not gonna let people judge me or say what they gotta say. Like I even if they do, it doesn't bother me because I'm being myself, and that's good enough for me because that's all you can do is be yourself. So
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
the heavy stuff right there. So, what was I going to ask you? So, as you started to align your inner self with your outer self, like, we talked about, you had that conversation, you started to act more like you really are. What did you notice from the people
Um,
closest to you?
at first it's not easy. Because the people around you still have those stigmas of like this is who he is. And they've always had these like projections of who you are too and who they want you to be. So when you start becoming yourself, it's not easy, like because they still see you as you are to them and what they want you to be. Um, so I think it also comes to the understanding when you are being yourself, these people have to understand like they've always been projecting something onto you too that you are not. Um, so at first
Yeah,
it's hard because like the relationships don't exactly like they got better, but not better. Like I felt like it got more distance for a while because they feel like they don't understand me anymore. They feel like they don't know me. So it's like because you never knew me, unfortunately. You're my parents and you're my best
mm,
friends and you're my family, and you think you knew me, but you really never knew who the real me was. So it wasn't easy at first. Um, but now, now it's great. I don't think that I've ever had better friendships. And I've never had um better relationships with my parents or sister. So
yeah. I think that's like an important part for people to realize is that as you start to really embrace yourself and love yourself authentically,
nah, you
not
lose
everybody's
people.
going to survive that journey. Like there are going to Yeah, you lose people, and then even those people closest to you are going to sometimes challenge, like you said, their previous expectations of you, and say like, "This is not you. Like, what are you doing?" And
Yep.
you're just starting to detoxify. And sometimes, as you're becoming, getting in alignment with your inner self, something that even your most loved person does is toxic to that inner self. So you start to set boundaries, and as you're setting boundaries, people get scared. They're like, "Well,
Nah, no, for
how
real.
dare he?" you know? And, yeah, and it's important to because I think that you get to a place where you're strong enough to then go back, and have those people participate in a role if they're willing to grow some as well. Like, I've been very open with the fact that my mother and I have not talked in over a year because she's not willing to grow at all. Like, she takes my boundaries and my growth as a total negative because she can't just put upon me all the time. And that to me is not a relationship. That to me is like some sort of contract that she thinks that I signed and I didn't. And so we had to, I had to grow apart from her. But other people who, we just took space and I got stronger and I was able to have the conversations that they needed to have to be able to accept me as I am now. We've grown back
I think
together.
I think yeah, it's been like
But
that.
so
Like I
go
took
ahead.
space from a lot, even my own family. Like I was living in their house, but I wasn't even speaking to them really. Like I was sitting in my room every day, all day.
Hmm.
Even when I was like, because I was in class online after COVID hit. Right after I transferred home, I was only there for like a semester, and then we went online for COVID. So I was up in my room in class, usually the first like 9 a.m. till like 5 6 p.m. Usually, sometimes I had a 6 to 9 p.m. class, which sucked, but I would sit in my room. I'd come down to get dinner, and then like we wouldn't say much. Same with my friends. I grew apart from a lot of them, and then now we've like reintroduced ourselves, and it's like it's way different. Like even not even now, like even if it happened like last year or 2 years ago, whatever, they get reintroduced to like the real me, and then like you said, if they were willing to change themselves and grow too, or understand me more and I understand them, then we'll keep the relationship. But I understand you too with your parents, because still sometimes, yeah, with the boundary thing, it's like, I'm gonna tell you this like one more time, not trying to be rude, but like if you're passing this boundary, like I can't, like I'm not going to talk to you for a little while. And if you can't understand that you were in the wrong or you're crossing a boundary, then we're not going to talk until you do understand that and you can apologize, or whatever the case may be. And then you can grow yourself and understand these things. So I think, fortunately enough, because of the brand, and not just because of the brand, but because I became an authentic version of myself and have been myself, I was a teacher for these people in my life, luckily. I think they understood it and they took it, and they learned lessons, and they, not saying they fully, all of them can be, I'm not going to say all of them are or aren't 100% authentic, cuz I've always said that being 100% authentic is never going to be achieved, but by trying to be your, and doing your best and learning and growing, you, and trying to be your authentic self, you're being 100% authentic. So it's a weird whirlwind I spin there. But I'm not going to say that they are or not being their true 100% authentic selves, but I think that, like, I was able to teach them things, and they definitely understood it, and it, like I said, it helped our relationships for sure. Even on, like I said, even when we hit points where I feel like they don't understand. Somehow we can figure out how to make it, like, have conversations and make them, at least if they don't want to change, they do understand where it's coming from, or anything, how I'm acting, or why I do what I do. At least they're understanding enough, and they may not like it, but they're okay with it, and they're not gonna like treat me differently and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think what you said is, you said it was a whirlwind that you spun, but I know exactly what you mean because I talk all the time about the fact that being authentic does not mean that you're there. It doesn't mean that you've arrived at the final destination. It means that you're accepting where you're at
Yep.
and you're accepting that you want to continue to grow. And that's, like I had a conversation about it on LinkedIn today where like the dude might block me because he was like, well, this, all you need to do is this. And I was like, I don't want to stop doubting myself. He's like, just, I just accept myself without any doubt. And I'm like, I don't want to stop doubting myself. I want to keep asking questions of, oh my gosh, why is this fly in my face? I want to keep asking questions as why, why did I do that thing? Was that the right thing to do?
Yep.
How could I have done it better? That doubt makes you ask yourself questions and have an internal dialogue and make solid
Yep.
decisions about how you want to interact in the world. I think that, it's just not letting the fear of doubt or the fear caused by doubt win out. It's just let it be a conversation that you have, let it shape you and, help, direct your growth in the proper way. And then doubt is okay. Doubt is good. It's like manure for the soil. Like
Exactly. I agree.
you need it to grow.
Oh, it definitely can
Maybe
smell
it
bad,
can
but
smell bad,
it's,
but
yeah, it's not even like exactly if it's doubt. It's just like the reevaluation process. It could be doubt, but it's just like, did I handle this better than I would have handled it before? You know? Did I react in a better way than I would have
yeah.
reacted before? Did I react the right way this time? Or did I react right, or did I not? Yeah, it's just kind of doubt or evaluation of making sure, you're trying. You're trying to be a better you.
And something else I wanted to say, because somebody else told me this that was on my show, is that you need to have grace for your past self. Like you hurt your mom, and that's bad, right? But we don't want to do that. You feel bad about that, and that's okay. But you also need to just like forgive yourself because you were at a point then when you didn't have the capacity to do better. You're doing better now. Like forgive that person for being where they were because you can't change that. But you can change how you view yourself and that person's you. If you're still mad at them, if you're still upset at them, if you're still like holding a grudge against that version of yourself, that means you're holding a grudge against yourself. So you have to give yourself grace. And like, I'm not saying don't be accountable for the things you've done in the past. Like, absolutely be accountable. But also like say, It's okay. Let's just not do that again. Just as if you were talking to somebody else who made the same mistake, who you love. If your partner talked, if you're in a relationship, if you're not, whatever, but if your partner talked the way that you talk to yourself, how would you feel? Probably terrible. Could you imagine talking to your partner the way that you talk to yourself? That's even like, it's even wilder. Like, I know I can be really negative with my self talk, especially talking about my old self. If I talk to my partner that way, I'd fight. But then we often think
Right.
it's okay to like talk to ourselves that way. We have to change that. We have to change that narrative and say like that is me. So yeah, he did the wrong things a lot of the time, but he was trying to find himself. Now that I found myself, I accept where he was, and I
It's
know that I'm
hard
here
because like
because of him.
I do feel like that too. Like I feel like I accept that version of myself. Like I know there's no going back. Um and I know, like I said, where I was at in life, like you said, and I was just trying to figure it out. And like, I was going through a lot. But I still just feel so bad for how I acted back then.
Yeah, it's hard to move on whenever like I've definitely had some big mess ups that I do beat myself up about sometimes. Like this is a fairly new thought for me. Like something that somebody gave me just a couple of weekends ago, and I was like, "Whoa, I need to start working on that," because I had not forgiven him. I talk about my, even, like I talk about old Facebook posts that I used to make, and I'm like, God, I was so cringy because everything I was doing was fake, and so like I would talk about myself so negatively, and she said like, that was you. Like it's okay that that's who you were at the time, but that was still you.
I do
So
the
you
same
have to
thing.
love
I
that
when I
person
see
so you
my
can
old
love
Facebook
yourself.
post too, because like what the I used to beat myself up. Yeah, yeah, I beat myself up,
Like, what
man.
were you
What are you
doing?
doing, bro? Um, yeah, I think too.
Yeah.
Even though like I think this is a lot of these things I know I've grown because when I first broke up like that relationship, I would have blamed everything on her. Um, and as bad as stuff that she put me through and treated me with, like I still regret same thing, the way I reacted in ways. Whether she treated me bad and cheated and did all this other lying and everything she did to me, that still doesn't explain like my reaction and like I can still stay true to being authentic. You're staying true to yourself no matter how anybody else in the room is treating you. You're still going to be your loving, caring, genuine self. Even if it's harder, you just have to evaluate the situation. But yeah, I definitely still regret things that happened between me and her, and I'll take it. I've always, in the last 2 years, well, 3 years since like I became on this journey, I'll take full accountability for my actions in that relationship, and what I did wrong, but that still doesn't make either thing that either of one of us doing right or wrong. Um,
Yeah, it's funny. I hear you talk about this relationship, and it's such a big part of your story. But like in 15 years, that relationship is like going to be. It's not going to mean anything to you anymore. Like I mean, it'll mean a little bit, but it's wild because I was with the same girl from freshman year in high school till the like halfway through senior year, and like I thought that was everything. We were supposed to move to college together, do all that stuff, and like I don't even remember how we broke up
yeah,
because that's how little it means to me now. Like life keeps happening and there's still so much ahead for you. Like I can't even like it's funny, like 25 seems so long ago. Like I'm almost 40 years old now. And there's so like I've got 4 kids. I've got, I'm still with the same person I was when I was 25. We met when I was 19, I think. But it was still in the later, maybe I was 20. I think it was 20. The later part of my life. And everything still changed so much from then. Who I was changed so much from the time I was 21 to 25. And, I hope that you can start to give yourself so much grace for the things that you did when you were at that, like before 21. Like I call that the beta phase. Like everything before 21, you're basically still in beta testing. You have no idea what you're doing. You've had no experiences to compare anything against. It all feels so major because you haven't actually fully formed any idea of who you are. And then you start to form an idea of who you are, and then you realize that's not it either. You're going to do it again and again and again. And yeah, it's a constant process of discovering yourself and just learning that it's okay that that person
Nah,
didn't work out
yeah, I
the way I
like
thought
that.
it
I
was
like the
going
way you
to.
put that too, the beta phase. You never have we're so young and just everything's just
Yeah,
like being thrown at us and projected onto us, you know? Like we don't know anything. We're just
yeah.
learning. I mean, and I think that's
Now that being said, though, I do think that you're like, you're at your point at 25. I was like on version, like I say, everything before 21 for me was my beta phase. So version one was from like 21 to 23. Version two was like
that's how this
23 to
feels.
26 or 27. So version two for me, I feel like you're on version two, but your version two is so much farther along than my version two was. Like I had never even thought about looking inside at that point. Everything was still, it's everybody else's fault. You're doing this wrong. They treated me this way. It was never about how I could affect the situation more positively. And then you're buying into a whole philosophy of starting to start a brand on it, which I'm doing something similar. But like I said, I'm almost 40 years old. It took me this long to get here. Like you're light years ahead, and I think that you're gonna find that life
Thanks,
that you're
man.
not trying to escape
I like
from
that.
much faster than you think.
It feels I don't know. I think I don't give myself enough flowers unfortunately and even at times I unfortunately feel like I don't get enough flowers in general, but like I said, I think that goes based off by sales and regulating that kind of stuff, sales and numbers, really makes me feel like flowers ain't enough. But then when I like evaluate it and then especially coming from someone that doesn't know me, I think it's kind of crazy because like a lot of my guests have said like some sort of similar, not like same, but similar version of like that's how they kind of feel about me, and it really makes me evaluate myself better. So I appreciate the words because like feels good coming from you for real, feels amazing, and then like it really makes me think deep down, like man, you're really working, you're working your ass off. Like come on, like give yourself some credit and like see
Yeah.
where not even just the brand and just like in life, like the strides you've made to become the person you become.
It's so much easier to accept the negative opinions of ourselves, both from ourselves and from other people, than it is to accept the positive ones. Like when somebody compliments us, it's like, oh man, thanks, but whatever, it wasn't that hard, or always
Yeah.
shirking things off and saying like, oh, it's not a big deal. Whenever somebody's like, you messed this up, it's like, oh my god, I messed that up. Like I suck so bad, and that's the thing that you replay over and over again. How often do you replay over and over again somebody saying like, man, you're doing big things?
No.
Like how often, like those don't get the replays. Unfortunately, the way the human brain is, like it's those negative things that replay over and over again. So it takes that much effort and that much like over over vigilance to make sure that we're being positive to ourselves, that we're like, like you said, giving ourselves our flowers, and we're appreciating the things that we do right, and that the good that we are putting out in the world. Like you're putting good out in the world, and that's a great thing. I wasn't putting anything out in the world except for
I
negativity
appreciate
when I
that,
was your
man, for
age.
real, and I appreciate everything you're doing here, and everyone I have on here. It's luckily enough, you reached out first. I mean, like on the comment and stuff, like on the post, but I've been lucky enough to say, like you said, I had a decent network just from the last couple of years. Like when I first started the brand stuff, I gained a pretty good network, but then I've gained an even better network from the brand. Um, and I appreciate you having me on here because everyone I have on here is like now they're just like mentor me. I know like we even though we don't speak a lot, but like just being able to see your content and your other podcasts and being on here with me, it's just like a mentorship for me. And like I said, being on these helps me grow just as much as I can help other people grow.
And that's awesome, man. Like everybody who's been on my podcast, I try to like kind of invite them into the cooperative. Basically it's like
Yeah.
you're
Oh,
part of
same.
my authentic team. Like to whatever degree you want to participate, like if there's something I think you might want to collaborate on, or if I think there's something that you might be able to help me with, I might holler at you and be like, hey, do you have any ideas for this? Or like I talk to a couple other podcasters every now and then, and we just talk about ideas to like help get better at what we're doing. Like why not? Why not? Like we've met these people, we align on these issues, like let's just talk about it. Let's, use each other in a good way to create synergy and for us all to like rise. Like, the
I
tide
fully
brings
agree with that
everyone up.
because unfortunately on this journey I've met some people that don't think that way. But everyone that I'm still not anyone I've had on the show, but I've met some networks that yeah,
Yeah,
like once I'm networked with you, bro, I don't care how close we are, we're networked forever. Whatever you need from me, you reach out to me. I don't care if you haven't talked to me in 5 years. If there's something I can do for you, I'm gonna do my best. And yeah, and if I need something, I hope it's the same. If not, that's okay. I'm still gonna do it for you. And even at that, like you
absolutely.
said, like we're part of a collective now. Like if we just hop on and can help each other in whatever way, or just talk and just shoot ideas, it don't matter what it is. Like let me know. Like I said, anyone that I tell people that join every time, anybody that helps me out with anything with the brand, I always like send a thanks at the end, and I say anything you guys need help with, just like shoot me a message. I said I may not be able to do it, but I've been grateful enough, like you said, to create a network that I've met people in a lot of different areas that I may be able to find someone that can help you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'm gonna wrap this up, and I'm gonna let you have a minute to talk about where people can find you online, what all you're working on right now, anything you
Cool.
want to share,
I
we
appreciate it.
maybe didn't talk about
Yeah.
too.
So my personal, like you said, my name's Braeden Westfall. You find me on all socials: Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whichever you call it. Um, and then yeah, I have authentic.vibes.only. That's the full brands page that kind of like mixes everything in. Like I mainly post just I've switched it to kind of just the clothing part, but we still throw up like quotes of the day and stuff on there. I share all the podcast stuff on there. Authentic.vibes.only on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. And then I have the AVO podcast page, AVO underscore podcast, I believe is my handle on Instagram and TikTok. I'll check. Yeah, AVO underscore podcast is the podcast page where you can find episodes and clips. And then that's the same as TikTok. And then the YouTube is just Authentic Vibes only on YouTube. So that is solely focused on the podcast right now, but I would love to share other aspects of like cool videos from like clothing drops or whatever the case may be. So we're gonna see if we expand that, because I it's hard running all these separate pages. Because when I first started, I was running the podcast on the same page as the brand, but then I felt like I wasn't niched down enough and I wasn't getting into the algorithms, to be honest, from that. So I had to brand out and make a separate page for the podcast when I revamped the podcast logo and stuff like that. But YouTube is kind of different. It's just more about it. The algorithm's not as serious unless you're posting shorts. I don't post shorts that often. It's just kind of if it gets out to the people or not. So I mean, we may be starting to add some cooler stuff in there, vlogs, whatever. Cool stuff we do with other creatives, because I've been doing some cool projects with people. So yeah, just check that out. And thanks, Bruce, again for having me on here. Like I said, if you need anything too, and I'd love to set up like we already talked for you to come on my podcast as well.
Yeah, I would absolutely look forward to that. We'll get that book as soon as you want to. I'm excited for that, and I enjoyed today's episode a lot. Like I really enjoyed talking to you. It's nice to hear from somebody else who's looking to do the same thing in this in this world and put good authentic vibes out. Like I appreciate that. Um, Thank you, Braeden, for being such a great guest and being vulnerable in our conversation today. I appreciate you. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review. I really appreciate the feedback, and it helps me get heard by more listeners. Follow this podcast so you can get updates about new episodes and live streams. And if you are interested in bonus or behind the scenes content, you can go check out the Authentic on Air with Bruce Alexander Patreon page. Share this episode with anyone you think might enjoy it right now. Check out earlier episodes to support the future creation of great content. And don't forget to like @Authentic Identity Management on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, or LinkedIn. You can also head over to the Authentic Bruce YouTube channel for podcast video and impactful clips from my conversations with these great guests. Finally, if you are struggling to show up as yourself in your content, your work, your family, or your life, I would love to help you. Authentic Identity Management does authenticity and identity coaching to help you align your true self with the identity you share with the world. It's exhausting to live someone else's life. Live authentically and access the potential that belongs only to you. You can contact me on social or email at bruce@authenticidentitymanagement.com to set up a free 30-minute consultation. That is it for today's episode. Thank you for listening, everyone. Until next time.